Silicon Valley Bank, SVB, finally has a buyer, but let's start with how we got here. About 2 weeks ago, Silicon Valley Bank, overexposed to bonds, short of funds, and experiencing a surge of withdrawals, collapses, bluey, gone. The Fed backstops deposits, the FDIC closes the bank, transfers all assets to the Silicon Valley so-called bridge bank, and now the FDIC accepts an offer from First Citizens Bank, a North Carolina institution, to purchase about $72 billion of SVB's assets at a discount of $16.5 billion. For more on the details, let's bring in Hugh Sun. He is CNBC.com's banking reporter. Hugh, how and why did First Citizens get SVB, and were there other bidders in the process?
There were other bidders. Bloomberg reporting on Friday that Valley National was another player, a smaller regional player in this. The sense is there was an overwhelming rush of demand for this auction, and that actually there were a few auctions in the pipe. So First Republic is another ailing lender that has to eventually either get capital infusion or sold. And so my understanding is that there are a few bidders out there who actually wanted to wait for and bid on First Republic because they found that preferential versus SVB. Let's just take a step back and finally say, however, it is good that this auction got done, even at the price that it did. And there was a raft of concessions that FDIC needed to get this deal done, and I think that's what it shows.
How big is First Citizens? And obviously, we can look at the stock reaction of First Citizens. It is way up today. Yeah. How big is that company?
I mean, in a way, that tells you everything you need to know because they got a raft of concessions. They got to cherry pick assets. They don't have to take $90 billion of these long-dated bonds that the Fed is holding on to. They got a loss-sharing agreement on the deal, and a discount on the loans they did get. There are other aspects of this that we're still reporting out. And it's a top 40 bank that's now a top 20 or 25 bank. They are really in the big leagues now with this deal. And so kudos to them and what they accomplished.
Are they going to do a name change or anything? There's been a lot of kind of sass about the fact that this, staid-sounding North Carolina institution is now the place where all of these kind of startup people have to do their banking. I mean, in all seriousness, do you think there's a risk of further deposit flight, or is First Citizens going to make an effort to say, no, the culture of SVB that, as Deirdre talks about, that you might have liked and enjoyed, we're going to try to keep that culture? I'm just curious.
Well, look, they've made sounds about wanting to cater to the VC community and cater to the folks that were SVB's bread and butter. Is there risk of deposit flight? I think there must be, because as part of this deal, they actually got a rather large credit line that is created to help deal with the potential flight of further deposits. The issue being is a lot of these are still over the 250 FDIC cap. So when these businesses and VCs bank with them, they have way too much to be covered.
Final point on that. Is it clear whether those uninsured deposits are now protected? Because the FDIC's press release made it sound like only the existing 250K cap would still apply to all of those deposits.
It's unclear because, on Sunday, March 12th, when they announced that these depositors would be made whole, is there a time limit on that? With this new entity, is that now elapsed? And, it's unclear.
Yeah.
And I think that's some of the uncertainty that's why they created that special credit line for Citizens to have.
Yeah, great point.
In other words, that the FDIC was going to cover those uninsured deposits for the time being, but now that clock may have expired? Is that the idea?
Yeah, that is possible. And I only say that just because why else would they create this special credit line in anticipation of potential deposit flight? And so that's certainly a concern here. Mm-hmm. I don't want to get ahead of our skis here, but right. That's a risk.
Yeah, no, well, it's well said, and hopefully we'll find out more in the next couple of days with more of these regulators on Capitol Hill. Hugh, thanks for now.